Growing up, I played a lot of video games, and although I started on a Sega Genesis, my real love is for the N64. I have very fond memories of my brothers and I all duking it out in Smash Bros, or spending hours upon hours of time perfecting my farm in Harvest Moon 64. The N64 owned my younger years. But when I got a bit older, I remember seeing it in a Walmart. They were playing a commercial for the system that came and shaped me as a gamer, the Nintendo GameCube. Boasting better graphics, a fancy new controller, and cooler games, younger me instantly knew that I had to have this. After months of saving money and begging my mom, on December 25th, 2001, my mother took me to Walmart and purchased my very own GameCube, and I was amazed. And while I could go on and on about the GameCube, I don't think that I get very far by myself. The GameCube and its lineage go on, and so I've decided to invite fellow GameCube enthusiast and fellow YouTuber, TheRyanSucksAtVideoGames, to help me.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryan, and as you can expect, I love the GameCube. The GameCube is home to so many creative and fun Nintendo titles, and while its third-party support wasn't the greatest, the games that we did receive were pretty great. And that's why we're here today, because we wanted to take a look at some of our favorite games from the GameCube, as well as talk about some of the more overlooked games on the GameCube. So Dan, seeing how this is your channel, why don't you start us off?
As you guys know, I'm a Nintendo guy, through and through. I grew up on Zeldas, Pokemons, and Metroids. But one series really set off my love for gaming as a kid, and that was Mario.
It's me, Mario!
I grew up playing Super Mario Bros. In my babysitter's and cousin's house, and as I grew, that appreciation grew as well. I picked up and played Super Mario 64 and Super Mario World, spending hours upon hours on them. Eventually, I had to move out onto a new game, Paper Mario. And it's one of my favorite games of all time. But what Paper Mario did on the N64, its sequel, Paper Mario The Thousand-Year Door, did even better on the GameCube. And if you've never played either of the first two Paper Marios, let me give you a quick rundown of them. RPGs set in the Mario universe, complete with turn-based combat, a level system, partners throughout the story, side quests, and even different equipment that you can unlock. If that already doesn't sound great, then I don't know what would. And to make things even better, the second Paper Mario game does something that many people who hate on Nintendo say that they don't do. They changed the formula. Now, Bowser isn't the one who kidnaps Princess Peach. Instead, the X-Nauts, an evil group from space, do. And Bowser actually makes several appearances through the game as a playable character. Alongside that, the game doesn't even take place in the Mushroom Kingdom, but instead, Rogueport, a land filled with gangs, tyranny, and treasure. This means that you're going to be discovering a world that you've never seen before, along with monsters and people that are totally new to the series. Not only is the story and world fantastic and exciting, but the gameplay is too. It's a turn-based combat system, meaning that you, your partner, and your opponents will take turns attacking each other. And as you play the game, you'll learn new moves and get new equipment that show you how to do things like action commands, which raise your special attack meter and can cause more damage. Some of the equipment that you find are called badges. These allow you to gain health, special attack points, do different attacks, and take less damage. It's a fantastic feature, and one of the best ways of implementing equipments in gaming that I've ever seen. Aside from these things, you can actually meet different party members who can do different attacks and interact with the environment in different ways. And while I could go on and on about this game, I think it's time Ryan told us about one of his personal favorites.
Dan might have grown up with Mario, but I grew up with the fastest thing alive. Now I'll admit, Sonic Heroes isn't the greatest Sonic game out there, but it's one of my personal favorites. Yes, the game did get repetitive, yes, it dragged, and yes, those damn pinball stages can go die in a fire, but at the end of the day, it's still something I can look back and say, yeah, I had fun with it. What makes this game stand out amongst other 3D Sonic games is the team mechanic. You can switch characters on the fly to fully explore these well-designed and beautiful zones. Because of this, I felt as if each member of the team was important. I also love this game's art style. To me, this is how a Sonic game should look. Bright, cartoony, and full of color. And do I even need to mention the soundtrack? It's a Sonic game. Of course the music is going to be great. Heck, I'd even go as far to say that this is one of my favorite soundtracks on the GameCube. It's just that good. Speaking of Sonic, Nintendo gave the Blue Blur a lot of love. Not only did the GameCube receive the best version of Sonic Heroes, but we were also able to play a number of classic and obscure Sonic games thanks to the Mega and Gems collection. To add on to this, we received remastered versions of Sonic Adventure, my personal favorite Sonic game, and Sonic Adventure 2 with the DX and Battle ports. These ports added new game modes, remastered character models, and in the case of Sonic Adventure 2, a strong multiplayer experience. now that I think about it, there were a number of games on the Dreamcast that got brought over to the GameCube. There were the 2 Sonic Adventure games, Crazy Taxi, Ikaruga, Phantasy Star Online Episodes 1 and 2, and a criminally overlooked JRPG called Skies of Arcadia.
Skies of Arcadia. Now that's a game I can get behind. I've said before that RPGs are games that I gravitate to, especially ones with great stories and original combat mechanics, and Skies of Arcadia had both. You see, in Skies of Arcadia, you play as Vice, a young pirate out to stop the evil Valuant Empire from taking over the world. But one of the biggest differences between this and other pirate games is that in Skies of Arcadia, you aren't sailing the 7 seas, oh no, you're sailing the skies. It's got one of the best stories in an RPG that I've ever played. And while it does take a lot of the tropes and stereotypes of the genre, it does them in different ways that fit the characters and story, making for an original cast of heroes and villains. To top this wonderful story together, you've got this beautiful setting of vast landscapes and colorful islands, and you've got the combat system, which is based on elements. Each character can set their weapon to a certain element to do more damage to an enemy, and you can switch these elements at any time, without taking a turn to do so. It's something that was really well designed and thought out. This remake does the original tons of justice, just as Crazy Taxi and Ikaruga did for their Dreamcast counterparts as well.
And if that game doesn't quite scratch that adventurous itch you got, you can always play one of the many Zelda games that were released on the GameCube. In The Wind Waker, you sail the ocean, which doesn't sound nearly as cool as sailing through the sky, but I digress. Now I'll be honest here. Though I personally found this game's temples to be very weak, this game nails the feeling of going on a grand adventure. Truth be told, I always found sailing the ocean at night to be oddly relaxing. I remember when I was a kid and I was playing this for the first time, I would put the story on hold and just sail around the ocean. You're given this massive world to explore, and to me, that's where Wind Waker shines the brightest. Exploring the ocean, talking to the many interesting NPCs, finding treasure, that's the best part about the Wind Waker. There's also The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Now, a lot of people tend to disagree with me on this, but I personally love this game. In my opinion, Twilight Princess had some great temples. I loved the horseback combat and the hidden sword skills you can learn, and Midna is one of the most interesting Zelda characters to grace the franchise. And, like Wind Waker, I had fun exploring this version of Hyrule. And I know a lot of people say that there's nothing interesting in this version of Hyrule, but that isn't true. There's a number of landmarks like the Bridge of Eldin, and there's even some mountains you can climb to discover hidden treasure or even a hidden maze. Hell, I have over 100 hours in my first file of Twilight Princess, and a majority of that time was just spent riding Epona and exploring Hyrule, and I haven't even completed the game 100% yet. On a side note, I also love how you can almost always see Hyrule Castle in any part of Hyrule. It's always there, serving as a reminder of why you have to do what you have to do. If those games aren't enough, you can always try one of the most overlooked installments in the franchise, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. You control 4 links in this arcade-like Zelda experience. Each area that you go to feels like its own dungeon in a way, thanks to each zone having a number of unique and clever puzzles. Also, nabbing a large number of Force Gems is easily one of the most satisfying gaming experiences. It's a fun and clever little game that I think needs more love and attention. Lastly, you have the Zelda Collector's Pack, which comes with the first 2 Zelda games on the NES, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. There's also the Master Quest bundle, which comes with Ocarina of Time, and the Master Quest, which is pretty much a more difficult Ocarina of Time.
Speaking of Four Swords Adventures, I'd like to mention a lesser-known accessory from the Nintendo GameCube that I believe revolutionized both handheld and console gaming forever. The Nintendo GameCube Game Boy Advance connecting cable. This bad boy allowed players to connect the Game Boy Advance to the GameCube and be used as either a controller or as a means to unlock new content in the game. For example, in the above-mentioned Four Swords Adventures, you can use the Game Boy Advance as a controller to play the game. And in Animal Crossing, using the Game Boy Advance cable gives you access to a special island with its own fruits and residents. And while not nearly as game-changing as the connecting cable, Nintendo also tried a little experiment with the thing they like to call the e-reader. The e-reader read small cards that came with a code printed on them. Using these cards unlock things like minigames or secret items. Few examples would be the NES Classics that certain cards would give you. There were 13 titles in total, including the likes of Excitebike, Mario Bros, and even Donkey Kong. Another amazing example of the e-reader is its use in Animal Crossing. These cards could unlock rare furniture and clothing for your character to use and wear. Some would offer town tunes that your villagers would sing upon being spoken to, and some would offer promotional deals like sibling cards with characters who are related to each other on each side of the card, giving you a basis on who is related to who in the Animal Crossing universe. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the use of these cards in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. You see, instead of DLC, Nintendo's actually pushed these cards out to places like GameStop and Best Buy. These cards would contain codes that would unlock trainers to battle against, collecting special Enigma berries, or to be used to catch either Latios or Latias. These cards were really spectacular and something that really pushed the console and handheld connection that we see even today in things like the PS Vita and PS4 connection and the 3DS Wii U connection. And since we've already talked about the Game Boy Advance, why not run down some of the things that's really put in the spotlight as well? I'll let you take the wheel here, Ryan.
I believe you're talking about the Game Boy adapter. This was something that you can attach to your GameCube that allowed you to play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games. And what else is there to say about it? I think it speaks for itself. You mean to tell me I can play great games like Drill Dozer, Sonic Advance, and Golden Sun on my TV? Yes, please! And as you know, a number of NES and Super Nintendo games were ported onto the GBA, so you can play those on the GameCube as well. So hold up. You mean to tell me that I can play select NES, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Sega Saturn, Sega Game Gear, N64, Sega Dreamcast, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games on one console, on top of the long list of great GameCube games? Now can you see why the GameCube is so freaking great? Sure, nowadays you can buy just about any retro game that you want thanks to the likes of the eShop and PlayStation Store, but you have to buy those games individually. With these collections on the GameCube, you pay a set price and you'll get a large number of games on one disc. Heck, I'm sure you can even find some of these collections for dirt cheap. Okay, well, I didn't say all of them were cheap.
I guess you could say that in buying a GameCube, you'd be buying 7 consoles in one, and not to mention the effects that the GameCube had on the industry at the time. While it wasn't nearly as popular as its opponents, the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, the GameCube had some of the most popular video games to ever be released during this generation of gaming. Games to grace the GameCube were instant hits, such as Super Mario Sunshine, which paved the way for another great 3D Mario game in Super Mario Galaxy, Metroid Prime, which not only revolutionized the Metroid series, but offered fresh, new ideas on the shooter genre. Animal Crossing defined and created a whole new style of life sims that gamers could enjoy. Nintendo, and in essence, the GameCube, defined an era for many in gaming.
Nintendo was pretty daring during this time period as well. Firstly, they took some huge risks with their beloved IPs like Mario, Zelda, and Metroid. They gave Zelda a cartoony look that will last for years to come in a time where everything had to be dark and serious and realistic in order to be taken seriously. They made Metroid, previously a 2D platformer franchise, into a first-person shooter with open-world exploration elements. And they gave Mario the Flood in Super Mario Sunshine, as well as giving the characters voice acting. We in the West also received a number of Japan-exclusive IPs like Custom Robo, Fire Emblem, and as Dan previously mentioned, Animal Crossing. However, there were still some games that never saw a release in the West, like Doshin the Giant. Nintendo also came up with an impressive amount of new IPs to say the least. We received games like Eternal Darkness, Geist, and one of my personal favorites, Chibi Robo. You play as a tiny toy robot and it's your mission to do whatever it takes to ensure the happiness of the Sanderson family. You do this by exploring and cleaning the house. However, as you explore more of the house, the more backstory you get on not only the family, but the toys who reside inside the house as well. Yeah, the toys are sentient like how they are in Toy Story, and it's your job to make sure that they're happy as well. It's a fun and charming game that definitely needs more love and attention. Now, I don't mean to advertise or anything, but I've done a full review of this game on my channel, so I hope you check it out and I hope you enjoy it. We also got Pikmin on the GameCube, but sadly I haven't played it yet.
Ah, Pikmin! Imagine that you find yourself on a foreign planet with no way of getting home. You happen to find some plants, and when you plant them, plop! Tiny little planet men burst from the ground, ready to do your bidding. The game was massive, and while it lacked a definite story or a definitive gameplay that other GameCube games did, it had the charm, care, and originality that great IPs offer. You control an army of Pikmin, and with that army, you must fight monsters, collect parts for your ship and your company, and explore the world. The game had several variations of Pikmin, each having their own abilities and personalities, and with each of them doing their own thing. The game constantly feels like it's evolving and staying fun. It's one of the weirdest and most endearing games I've ever played. Speaking of weird games, the Big N was into oddities, and that really set them off as different from the rest of the gaming world. As previously mentioned, Chibi Robo was an outcast in terms of genre and substance, as was Eternal Darkness and Custom Robo. But another great overlooked game during the GameCube years was Cubivores. Cubivores was about playing as a small cubed animal and fighting other animals, eventually becoming stronger and learning new tactics to take on bigger and meaner animals. And every time you reached a new form, you'd go find a mate and have a child. This child then became the character, and it was your job to go out and become stronger than your father. It was actually really well designed, almost a roguelike before the catapult of roguelikes.
I'm sure Dan and I can go back and forth talking about our favorite GameCube games, but if we were to do that, we would be here all day. The point is that there are so many great GameCube games out there that you should definitely try if you haven't already. And hey, if we didn't talk about a game that you like, well, why not post a comment about it and tell us about it?
And if you're more interested in either the GameCube or in the Ryan Sucks at Video Games, then you can follow this link right here. It'll take you straight to Ryan's channel, and let me tell you, he's the king of the GameCube. You can also hit this link to watch any of my other videos. Which video is it? I don't even know. And when you're done with all that, you can click the little subscribe button to see more of my future stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. This video has been one of my favorites to work on, and working with Ryan was a blast. I hope we get to work again sometime in the future. That all being said, I'm going to leave you guys with this. The GameCube is one of the greatest consoles of all time. Period.